Now, as promised earlier, here's Black Sabbath. Well, metal fans will know Black Sabbath started out in the English Midlands city of Birmingham. The self-proclaimed Prince of Darkness, the singer Ozzy Osbourne, went on to become a reality TV star and is reportedly worth around $220 million. Well, Ozzy didn't always stay in the band, but off and on, Black Sabbath in some form have been making music since 1968. They released their last album about 3 years ago, but the band members, now in their 60s, and I have to say really looking like they are, say they're too old and are finally calling it a day. Tonight in Omaha, Nebraska, they'll play the first gig of what they say is their last ever tour. It's called The End. Well, we've been speaking to their first manager, Jim Simpson.
This may upset Black Sabbath fans, but they were very businesslike and very civilised people. We had a Wednesday morning business meeting every single week, unless they were on the road. And one of the business meetings, Geezer Butler, who's the bass player with the band, turned up very late, put his head around the door and said, "I've got it, chaps." We said, "Oh, what is it this time?" "I've got the name." "OK, what is it?" we said. He said, "Black Sabbath." Almost in unison, we all said, "Well, yes, that's it." And there was no argument, no disagreement. We suddenly had the way forward. They wrote the song called Black Sabbath, and that was the lead song on their very first album.
What is this that stands before me?
People ask me now about Black Sabbath, say, "Well, what was so special about them?" I say, go back and listen to the first album.
Figure in black, which points at me.
They were absolutely stunning. As a band, they all knew what was going to happen next. They were so familiar with each other's playing, they didn't have to think about whose chorus was next. They didn't have to think about what happened next. They all knew it. They're one of the tightest bands I've ever worked with. The influence Black Sabbath had on music is enormous. They are definitely, without doubt, the godfathers of heavy metal. There are so many bands these days that played varying forms of heavy metal, all based on the original concept of Black Sabbath. The funny thing about Sabbath was it sort of grew out of nowhere. It was totally organic. It wasn't contrived. It happened naturally within the band. But the only sort of influence before that was Jimi Hendrix, which no one would ever accuse Jimi Hendrix of being heavy metal. But Sabbath did it themselves, and they are still, I think, a greater influence on rock and roll than any other band, including the Beatles. Nobody sings like Ozzy. Although Ozzy's influences are strange. He might deny this now, but I remember spending a lot of time with him playing records by an old Oklahoman blues singer called Jimmy Rushing.
Sometimes I get a feeling I'm the lonesomest guy in town.
Who's got that sort of deep-throated voice that starts low down in the belly, just like Ozzy. Ozzy doesn't mess around. If Ozzy says something, he does it. And I think this is the final tour. And I think anybody that says, "Oh, I'll skip this tour, I'll go to the next final tour, or the final tour after that," I think they're kidding themselves. If Ozzy says it's the final tour, I'm going to go with Ozzy.
Black Sabbath's first manager there, Jim Simpson. They say it's the end. We'll have to see.